Tell me about when you guys went. You guys were one of the first ships in after they dropped the nuclear bomb, weren't you? And
When we left Okinawa and we got through that big typhoon, we we was already out to sea, and we headed towards the mainland of Japan.
yeah.
And the admiral came and said, "We're planning a big, full-scale invasion of the land of Japan, and it involved Navy, Marines, Army, everybody." And so I was one of the primary people. In fact, typed up all the orders for this full-scale invasion of Japan, and I mainly typed it up, and went down below decks in this little room, took a helper with me, and run off on an old-fashioned mimeograph machine all these copies of these orders, and made it into a regular book. And we sent that out to all the ships and Navy and the Marines and Army and everybody. And this was actually going to take place and would have taken place, but we were about halfway from there to Japan at the time they flew over and dropped the 2 atomic bombs, one on Hiroshima and one on Nagasaki. And that immediately ended the war. They dropped them one afternoon. The next day, Japan surrendered. But we were already on our way to Japan to instigate this full-scale invasion. So we went on into Japan and took part in the official surrender ceremonies.
So you were there for that, huh?
Yeah.
You saw it and were right
Part
there.
of it.
Wow.
And then the next day after that, Admiral came on the loudspeaker and he said, "You guys have been a good crew, a good bunch of guys. Going to do you a special favor. Tomorrow we're going to Hiroshima, and you'll be the first Americans in Hiroshima." Hiroshima was about just a few hours away from where we was, and already done the official surrender. And so we went down there, and we had to dock out in the ocean and take small boats into the docks at Hiroshima. And so we went in and toured Hiroshima on foot, and it was just like being in our valley at home. And you could look like looking from our place to Salt Lake City. Now you've been in situations where you could do that. So and there was just nothing but rubble as high as that mantle. 4, 5, 6 feet deep. It was just like a sea. It was just rubble, pieces of garbage, no bigger than this, no bigger than this. Trees, like these trees out here, totally stripped. There wasn't a leaf or a branch or nothing left on them. Just sticks standing there. Buildings, totally wiped clean, not a bit of paint or brick or nothing left on them. And we were standing there in the middle of Hiroshima, and these little kids came running up around us. I mean, little kids. And because we was quite a sight to see. And they started to explain to us about these big airplanes flying over and dropping bombs on them. They were talking Japanese, and of course we didn't understand it, but could kind of understand what they were talking about, and they could understand what we was talking about. But we could see off in the distance, down this one road a ways, this big building down there. It looked like just a big cement building. Well, it was a big hospital, like the hospital of yours.
Mm-hmm.
And so we walked down there. It was probably a mile away. We walked down there and stood there and looked at it. I decided, well, let's go. Me and a few of my friends. Because we didn't go anywhere alone.
Mm-hmm.
We always had somebody with us. Anywhere in Japan or China or anywhere over there. We didn't go no place alone. Ever. You always had somebody with you. So we walked over there and we stood there and looked at that building and then decided we were going to go in it. So we walked over there a little ways and went inside the building. Well, that building was just cement walls built by American contractors. And it was bare. There was no brick, no covering on the walls. There was no doors, no windows in it. We got inside the building and there was nothing in the building, not a stick of furniture, nothing. It was just wiped clean. Everything
Just been blasted by the bomb.
been blasted by the effects of that bomb. It just cleaned everything right down to that cement. And so we took the stairs and walked the stairs up three flights of stairs and got up on the roof. And we could see clearly then, from that height, we could see for, 30 or 40 miles. And there was nothing but just a sea of debris everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the meantime, before we ever went down to see that building, I looked around when these little kids was around us. We was in a little spot where the bomb hadn't affected it. And there was a few stores right around there that were still intact. And we went in those stores, and they was wanting to give us stuff, trinkets, stuff. And we'd been warned ahead of time. We didn't take nothing that we didn't buy or pay.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't take anything. I didn't get any of that. We didn't. If we seen any Japanese military, we didn't honor them or anything, salute them or anything like that.
You just kind of ignored them, or?
Yeah, we just ignored them. But against some of these buildings, there were big sheets of, I don't know I can't remember if they were plywood or sheets of cardboard or something. It'd be laying up against a building like this. You've seen a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, underneath there'd be people laying there still smoking and
Bodies, you mean?
bodies. Well, there'd be.
Would they be alive?
I
or-
don't know if they were alive or not. I just looked in like this.
You
Turned
see a
to
lot
look
of?
up.
Did you see a lot of carnage and a lot of death and all
Some.
that when you were there?
Some,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Enough that it kind of make you a little bit sick and sad.
Yeah. How long after the bomb were you there? Was it like?
6 days.
6 days after the bomb, you were walking around
Yeah,
in Nagasaki.
and there hadn't been anybody there prior to us.
Wow.
All these pictures you've seen on television of that was all taken after we were there.
Yeah.
So
Wow. And there were still things smoldering and
Oh, yeah.
smoking, and was there a stench in the air? Or
probably, I don't remember.
don't remember that.
Don't remember that much of it. But
Wow. Wow. Did you see any people walking wounded or people with burns or
I seen them laying
laying there?
there, been burned.
Yeah. Now, didn't you have a Japanese rifle or something
Oh,
like that? Didn't
yeah.
you come home with some
Well,
stuff?
on that trip, we went into a warehouse there, and it was full of Japanese military equipment, and we took enough rifles and bayonets and all that kind of stuff back to the ship, and then us guys that have been part of this just distributed them. That's where all of this.
Yeah, don't you have a bayonet and
I've got
a
a
Japanese
bayonet,
bayonet and a Japanese
Rifle.
rifle from the war?
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought
And
so.
I had clothes and flags and stuff. They've all disappeared. I don't know where I don't have any of that stuff anymore.
It's around somewhere probably. Huh. And that was that all that stuff came from Nagasaki
No, from Hiroshima.
or Hiroshima. Were you in Hiroshima or
Yeah,
Nagasaki?
Hiroshima.
You were in Hiroshima. Okay. That was Hiroshima. Okay. Wow. And this whole time you were at sea, how long were you at sea during the war?
I don't know.
A couple years or?
Probably a couple of years.
And Grandma was back home with Janice the whole time?
Yeah. She lived in California. She lived with her sister for a while, and then lived out in Pico, California, out east of Los Angeles. And then she, when at the time I got home and got discharged, she was living with my sister in Hollywood, California. And I was offered a civil service job by the Navy Department, by the government. At the time I was getting discharged, and I was quite excited about it. I thought it was a pretty neat deal, but it would have involved living there.
Yeah, in California.
In California. And I called Grace and told her about it. She says, "You've been gone long enough. You get your butt home. You can find something to do." So, just out of school, I didn't have any training, only my military training, and didn't know what I was going to do or anything. So anyway, I went ahead and went on. And I've wondered all my life what would have happened if I'd have stayed there and taken that civil service position, and maybe
Sandra, we're trying to record this over here, Chris.
maybe it would have turned into something, maybe it wouldn't, I don't know.
Yeah. And you came back home to Payson at that time then, right?
Well, I did a little later on.
Uh-huh.
And yeah. And
So when you were discharged, that would have been 1945, 46? 46.
1946.
1946. So after the bomb was dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, you got back on your boat at some point and came home. How long after were you back in the States? Were you out there trolling the seas for a while afterwards, or were you?
They discharged us. The war had ended at that point, and not only with the Japanese, but the war all over the world ended at the same time. So they discharged guys on points. You've been in so long, and there were several things that went into making up points. And so we had to sit and wait for our points to come to the surface. And then we had to get back to the States somehow.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was stationed in Yokohama, Japan. And we'd made a couple of trips to Shanghai in the meantime, and Hong Kong.
This is after the bomb was
You
dropped.
were in Hong Kong.
Yep.
And this was way after the bomb dropped, way after the end of the war. And so I was in Yokohama, and they came one day and said, "There's a merchant ship out here that's going back to Seattle next week. You guys can go on it." There was about maybe 6 or 8 of us, something like that were eligible to. Our points had come up to work. We were eligible to discharge. And we was doing nothing anyway, just waiting.
Mm-hmm.
And so I jumped on it. I says, "Yeah, I'll go." And so next day we take off and get on a little boat and go over to this ship, and this merchant ship, and they says, well, we got to make a stop at Shanghai on our way. So that would have been my third trip to Shanghai.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to Shanghai, and one of the guys on the ship gave me his pass, and I went on Liberty there. And we went ahead and went, and then the captain of this merchant ship had made a bet with another ship that was going back on who could get to Seattle first.
Mm-hmm.
So they had a race
Oh yeah.
from Shanghai to Seattle. So we headed for Seattle and got to Seattle and got into Seattle about noon one day and went ashore. And then I shipped from there down to California for discharge, and that's when it all ended.
So did the military pay for your portage and your passage, I guess?
Oh, yeah.
So that was paid for. So the merchant ship was doing all right, taking you guys back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, it was all.
Cool.